everybody. Today on the Business Spotlight, we have Connor St. Louis of Spearhead Studios. He's the founder and CEO. Connor, thanks for being here today.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'd just like to start with, you founded this business. Just tell us how you got into this and what got you started with Spearhead.
Yeah, great question. So before Spearhead, I was working as a manager and director at this company that was doing top of funnel sales for, we're pretty much industry agnostic, but 30 different, 300 different companies, 30 different industries. And we were basically just booking appointments. And, they were good appointments. Like, they were fully qualified. They weren't waving their Amex over their head per se. But the problem we kept running into is that a lot of folks, once they get the lead, just kind of have trouble closing. And so that's what we started to experiment with, is like, how can we help people close? And so through a lot of trial and error, we basically found this process of presenting ideas, right? The graphics, the messaging, and the sequence to effectively help people close a lot better on those early sales conversations. And then from there, we've grown into graphics for the whole sales funnel.
Right. And that's how it goes. You start with one thing and then you end up doing services that are slightly adjacent, and you end up with this whole system, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get back to process. I want to ask you about your process, but then who do you typically serve? What types of clients are you going after?
Yeah, great question. Well, you probably know this here as well as I do, and people listening to this, but it's changed over time. In the beginning, we were working with a lot of marketing folks. That was just who we were vibing with in the beginning, and they wanted this service. How it's transformed is now we've kind of gone upstream in terms of annual revenue, working with a lot of manufacturing folks, high tech folks who maybe they've been in the game for 15, 20 plus years. They just haven't been able to pass, 5 to 10 million. And so we're helping those out. I speak with a lot of founders, but it's mostly people who haven't taken the time to invest in graphics matter these days. And so does the sequence and the attention you're grabbing whenever you're talking to folks. So it's usually those kind of companies we're working with to massage their early sales conversation and presentation.
Yeah. So when you're working with the marketing folks, I know marketing is not exactly sales, because we work in that area too. Is it more the cobbler's daughter with the worst shoes in town kind of situation? They just don't have the time to work on themselves? Or is it just kind of a blind spot where they just aren't able to execute when it's them? They can do it great for their clients or maybe what they're trying to market, but on the sales side, they just can't quite pull it off. What is typically the case?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of times, and we had this thing, honestly, for the first few months, we didn't have a sales pitch deck ourselves. And it was like, we got to make one for ourselves. But it's like, sometimes you're good at doing it for other folks, but for yourself, it's just maybe something like you're like, oh, we'll get to it, especially like being in the CEO position, you got to let some fires burn. But you're right, with a lot of marketing folks, sometimes they just need the extra firepower, from the messaging, the graphics side, maybe just figuring out how to sequence certain ideas. So you're absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that phrase, to let some fires burn. But me personally, I know it's a huge blind spot. We tell clients all day, every day, hey, you're overselling, or you're so passionate about your business that you're saying too much, and or you're trying to tell them about every product and service and advantage that you've got, and you're not hitting the right things in the right order. And then we go and do it ourselves, right? So in the same boat as most of your clients. But how do you solve that problem? What's your process for kind of weeding through the unnecessary information, picking out the right information for these sales presentations? How do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So, real quick. So my background, I was a biomedical engineer. So I know everything from robotics to anatomy. And while I was getting my degree, I was doing door-to-door sales in the summertime. So it's kind of like I chose the sales path because I was in love with it so much. But whenever we were going back and we were looking at, how do we help people compel and grab the attention, all that stuff, I looked at the brain just because I was very familiar with it. And what we realized is that information travels one way through the brain. It goes through the brainstem to the midbrain to the neocortex. The neocortex is where we ultimately make the decisions. But the brainstem is where we're doing a lot of reacting. And so it's got 3 rules. It's like, okay, number 1, ignore non-breakthroughs. So if you look like everyone else, if you sound like everyone else, you're going to get number 2, which is categorized. We're all naturally lazy. And so what the brain likes to do is, if I can put you in a category, I'm going to, and then I'm not going to think about you. And the last thing is, it avoids complexity. So if you hit them with too many facts and figures, and you're right, what you just said, too many services, then yeah, what happens is their eyes just glaze over, and at the end of the day, you're just going to get a, this sounds perfect. Let me get back to you on that, right? This is the, yeah, they'll embellish, but anyways, so from there, we're like, okay, we got to figure out a way to grab attention, compel the yes, and guide their emotions. Like, how do we do that? And so we did a lot of research, a lot of trial and error. But what we found works best is on these sales presentations after you've, obviously decided that you've got a problem. To present the solution, you need to, number one, go from apprehension to cooperation, and then number two, from cooperation to belief. And if you can do that, you can break down the walls, you can make them visualize, get them to that point of belief. We believe you've got a much better chance. And now there is a little kind of trick of the trade, like you've got to like understand and know how to present and speak and do all those things. But if you present the ideas in the right order, we think that, well, we know through trial and error that you're going to be able to convince people a lot better than if you're just trying to wing it, just put something together. So that's how we approach it.
Makes sense. It's a lot that goes into that, I'm assuming. Um, to put all that into what you do, 'cause it's kind of the same thing, right? It's your brain is naturally trying to find the shortcuts and the easy ways, and you got to fight against that, I'm sure. And then you've got to understand your client, and you've got to understand your client's audience, and you got to connect all that. So that's a lot. Um, so what's the number one kind of hesitation that you hear from people that you're talking to about this? What normally is the on the sales side for you, the hesitation for working with Spearhead Studios?
Sure, sure. I'd say the biggest hesitation, it's actually been a developing one, which is the use of AI. So I'm sure like everyone watching this knows as well as we do here, AI is here. It's probably not going to leave. It's here to stay, and it's coming out in a big way in graphics. And so we've even tried some AI tools at our place, but a lot of founders are trying to use that. A lot of CMOs are trying to use that instead of using folks like us. We can definitely make like some bespoke pieces of work, but the big problem with AI, well, here, let's go back. Why people use AI is because it seems easier, it's faster, it's cheaper. The problem usually is the quality, right? Um, there's a common saying that in each of my business, well, my business, each of the places I've worked in my business still, we believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if the first impression looks like there were some corners cut, people will instill that and they'll be like, well, this company cuts corners. So we can't go with them, right? My earpods are falling talking. But the so that's the problem, is that AI, while it's super sexy up front, the problem is it's still going to be all this work to fix and edit, and oh, this word's wrong, like why is this here, the sequence is off. It just becomes a headache. It's kind of a pipe dream for now. Like, I'm not saying AI is going to be this way for in the future. I hope it gets better, like it would make all of our jobs easier. But that's what people are super attracted to these days. Outside of that, we do a pretty good job at like making custom pitches and doing some pre-work, like giving you some samples ahead of time, which is kind of hard to compete with. Like, a lot of folks really won't do that. So
Yeah, no, that does, and I think AI doesn't quite understand. You talked about psychology; it doesn't quite understand the human psychology. What's sexy, what's interesting. It's very factual, and it's like it thinks like a robot. I know it's getting better at that. We're probably going to get eclipsed in the next couple of years, but for right now, a lot of times what you get on the design side is kind of uninspired, right? It's okay. It's not great, or it's okay, but there's this guy with six fingers over in the corner or something. So depending on how extensively it's being used, I could see that being a problem, at least for now. What about the resistance? I mean, I know from working with a lot of sales managers and sales directors and CSOs, CROs, they really think that whatever they've done in the past is working. And if they're successful and their company's growing, then it's absolutely because this collateral we developed in 2008. And Do you have to come across that and kind of pick that apart a little bit nicely? Let them know that their collateral is not great.
Yeah, yeah, and you gotta, there was this really good quote I heard from a pastor once, but they were just like, talk to everyone like they're very fragile in this moment. And so I take that into sales because there's just a classic sales law. It's like you don't call the baby ugly, right? And so to get around that, you got to be like, look, you've got a lot of pieces of the equation here. I think there's some things we need to rearrange, but it's really just getting things in the mind of these people. It's like, look, if you're a high performer and if you swear that you are doing everything you can, then why not take a look at this, right? There could always be a better way. And I tell this to them, like, as well as I do, like, things change. Things always change. And like, I don't say it exactly like that, but um, you got to get the point across. I forget the exact name of the law, but it's like every 18 months, information speed doubles or capabilities double, something like that. Things are changing, and that's sort of I'll go with them, so to say.
Yeah, yeah. Things are changing, and they're changing geometrically. Like it's getting faster and faster. I know that when they're talking about the large language models, I think it octuples in ability every 6 months or something like that, maybe a year, and it's just you can't even really keep track of it. They show you the bubble graphs, and you see kind of what ChatGPT 2 and ChatGPT 3 and then 4's, the whole size of the screen. So yeah, that makes sense. Just complexity of evolving technology and things changing. How has your business evolved over the last couple of years?
That's a great question. So obviously we started with the pitch decks, and we were kind of like a hired gun at that first point. Like we started off, people were giving us money. We're like, this is great. But how we've really changed is we have tried to become a partner, so to say, in people's lives. And the reason we're able to do that is because not only we do graphics, obviously, but we also have a lot of expertise in the sales messaging side of things, top of funnel architecture side of things. And so we don't want it to be just, hey, make my white papers pretty, right? A college kid could do that, but we want to be a strategic partner in how you go to market. And it's not just a thing you can like just hand off. Like it's, Mike Tyson has a great quote. I believe it's Mike Tyson. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And so like when we give these people their graphics, their collateral, we want to make sure it works. If you think of something better, then tell us. We'll make the change to it, right? If you're not getting the results you think you need, then we're going to rethink that, right? Our goal is to increase people's close rates at every point in the sales process. And so that's how we've changed a lot. Is at first it was just like, here's the deck, good luck. Now it's, hey, like let's think about the next quarter, possibly 2 quarters going forward. That's how we work with people now. So I would say that's the biggest change overall.
Yeah. So you guys don't just do pitch decks anymore. You do pitch decks, you do presentations, you do other types of collateral. Uh, What am I missing here?
Yeah, no. So we do top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel. So that's your white papers. We do these things called lead magnets. If you're a fan of Alex Ramosi, you know exactly what that is. It's something that it solves an early problem, right? That gets people in. And then in the middle funnel, we do those early sales conversation pitch decks, which is our bread and butter. And then we also do like the follow up deck to that, which is and it's escaping me, but it is a strategy deck or proposal deck. And then from there, when you're closing them, what's the proposal look like? What does the onboarding look like? Stuff like that. So we've got graphics for the entire process and more. Like if people ever ask for something custom, we can absolutely make it. So yeah.
Yeah. So one cheaters, info packets, pitch decks, proposals, onboarding stuff. You do onboarding stuff.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, like a deck for that. If they want to onboard clients or employees or anything of that nature.
Cool. That's a lot, and so that's a bit of an evolution over the last couple of years. What what problems are you trying to fix now for your business?
On the business itself,
Yeah, on the business itself. Like what problems do you have in front of you at the end of 2025 you got to have figured out?
Great question. So there's this book. It's called Billionaire in Training. It's kind of a flashy title, but one of the principles is you go from employee to solopreneur to manager to owner, and then it goes past that. But to go from a solopreneur, which is what I was about a year ago or beginning of this year, to a manager, you've got to have a team in place. And so one thing I've been really focused on is hiring, and that's the problems I've had to work through. And I've found some great people. I've had some people who've come and gone, but that's one thing I'm working on a lot. Secondly, there's this idea of the 100 bullets, right? So your business is not just one thing; it's 100 little things, and depending on how well you do all of those things, that's like the gravity of your business, right? And so in the beginning, the right in the beginning, those are illuminated by your mistakes, right? So like maybe your customer success process is just awful, right? Which mine was, because I was just a sales guy and an engineer. Now I'm becoming a business person, right? So, or how you organize all of your customers' um, collateral, right? Anything, just small things, right? Finding those, I'm constantly trying to find those. Unfortunately, a lot of them are illuminated, like I said, via mistakes, but that's something I'm always trying to improve. It's just the little things in my business that can make me better than someone else's. Like, for example, at a restaurant, does your restaurant, when the guest leaves, offer a peppermint or not? Right? It's just one little thing, but it makes an impression. They can leave, feeling fresh, stuff like that. So hiring, the 100 things, and then those are the two on the top of mind right now.
Yeah, those little things are way more important than people give them credit for. I had a fellow that I worked with maybe 20 years ago at this point, and taught me something. He talked about an emotional connection. He said, if you can do something small that makes an impression, then that client, that customer, whoever it is, has an emotional connection to your business. They have a reason to come back and work with you over somebody else. And you mentioned something earlier on that the psychology, the three things that your brain's doing, right? It just kind of makes sense to me that if you've got an emotional connection, there's some kind of separation there between you and everybody else, right? You've done, I think you said it, breakthrough, right? But either, no matter how you're looking at it, you're doing something different and it stand out. So I think those little things add up, to make a big difference in a business being successful. So I think you're on the right path with that. Um, Seeing that now, kind of looking backwards, is there anything that you would do if you could start your business over today, from square one? What would you do differently if so?
hmm From square one, that's a great question. So in this past year, I mean, I've invested a lot into that question. Actually, I'm like, how can I reinvent? How can I make this better? And I think if I really got down to the root of it, I would say I've turned into a long-term thinker. Whereas in the beginning, I was very excited. You could say I was like, I had happy feet. So that's why I jumped in, but people were paying me, right? So that's why I jumped in the business, right? And so I think maybe this is a lesson for like a lot of like first time founders, kind of like myself. But um, if I were to go over this again, I would look 5 to 7 years into the future, and I would say, okay, what what is beginning to accelerate now that will have high nexus points in the future that I can start now and take advantage of, and have those trend lines carry me upstream so that I am winning in the future, right? I think that my big mistake, even just like the business, I'm not saying my business mistake, but the mistake I made was I just jumped in. I didn't think way far out, right? And I've been able to build something because I've really focused on, the 100 BBs that I was talking about earlier. But, thinking about, what is going to be inevitable, what is undeniably happening now that will grow, right? What do I have underpriced access to? Where is my strategic fit? Right. Think questions like that, right? Is this going to be a big deal in the future? So, um, if I were to redo it, I would make sure it checks off a lot of those and, go forward from there.
Nice. All right. Well, in that kind of spirit, Is there any advice that you would give to business owners or entrepreneurs that are just getting started, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business, that might save them a little bit of time and heartache and having to look back and have that same conversation?
Yeah, of course. And I don't know if this is like a coined term, but it's kind of the engineer's dilemma. So engineers, which is what I was, build solutions sometimes without a problem. So in the beginning, really, we got some people talking in the background here. But in the beginning, I don't know if you can hear that. But, oh no, okay, yeah. Well, so I would say in the beginning, really make sure and do your research on the problem you're trying to solve. First off, make sure you have a problem you're trying to solve, right? Go on Reddit, call people, do market research, but you have to have a problem to solve, and you have to solve it dang good. Like it can't just be like we do this. You've got to find a way to differentiate and solve it cheaper, faster, or better in some way. Without that, I don't think you should go into business personally.
Nice. All right, I like that. So with that, Connor, I appreciate you taking some time sharing a little bit about your business. Again, this is Connor St. Louis with Spearhead Studios. If you are looking for sales collateral that can help sales teams close business, get in front of the right people, make an impression, then you should give Connor a call and his team over at Spearhead Studios. So again, Business Spotlight, Connor, thank you for being on, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.